How's it looking on the monitor, like on the monitoring the sound, like on the little thing on top? Testing, testing. Yeah, so this photo was, yeah, man, I took this photo at, yeah. My name is AlfieDouglas-Wild. I'm a photographer, predominantly a concert photographer from North London. I've been doing photography for almost 2 years, I want to say. And I mostly run in like underground music scenes. In my own time, I listen to a lot of like 80s post-punk type shit, as well as stuff inspired by that genre from modern day, like DC Fontaines and shit like that.
So where did your interest in photography start, in fact, and what made you want to pursue concert photography specifically as well?
So I think when I first found out that a camera existed, 7-year-old Alfie was interested. I remember taking pictures of bins on my mum's iPhone 4 or 3, whatever the first iPhone was. I remember taking photos of bins on that, and trees that had grown through man-made things. Somehow, as like a single-digit aged individual, I had enough of like an idea for consistency that I liked the idea of nature versus man, but I would not call that like the start of my photography journey or interest, because after that I had no fucking interest. So I didn't study photography in secondary school, I didn't study it in A level, I didn't study it in college, I don't study it in university, I study advertising and brand design, which has more overlap than you'd think. But I have always been very passionate about film and production, so cameras were in my world. I started going to gigs towards the end of 2018 when a YouTuber or artist I fucked with called V-Rai announced his first gig, his first performance. I was aware of him through YouTube, having like been in that world and worked for YouTubers in the past, though I never really knew him. I was more of just a fan of him. He had announced that he was performing at a gig called Lamesfest. I had no fucking clue what Lamesfest was, but it happened to be like a 10-minute walk from my house because I'm the main character. And me and my mate Zaki, shout out Zaki, I love that guy. We went to Lamesfest. It was around Finsbury Park somewhere-ish, something like that. We went to Lamesfest, and that was my first real taste of live music and like the idea that motherfuckers like me existed in real life. Like I was aware there were other, like I was very into Suicide Boys, Scarlord, like, you know, very like, you know, emo rap, fucking cloud rap, aggressive rap, motherfuckers screaming. And I thought, you know, like I knew there were communities online. I even moderated communities online for it. But I wasn't aware that people like that existed in real life. I thought we were all little bedroom warriors, you know? So I went to Lamesfest for the first time, and it opened my eyes to like live music and the idea that other people existed. It changed my fucking life. Like you can't see it, I recently got Lamesfest tattooed on the back of my leg. So Lamesfest was the first gig I ever went to, and it really just opened my eyes to live music, opened my eyes to the community that was so close to my reach, and yet I was somehow unaware of it before. And after that, I started going to every single Lamesfest. I got to know the people there, but at that point, I was just a spectator. I was just someone attending. And then I studied film in college and decided that for my FMP, I would make a documentary about Lamesfest and use it as a window to make a documentary about underground music. So I made this documentary, or started making this documentary with my friend Mark, who helped with cinematography. And then COVID happened, and I had to make like a good. I think we did 2 interviews with pairs, so it was 4 people in total, in person. And then after that, every interview, I think it must have been like around 20 people, was done through Discord, FaceTime, just any video chat thing you can think of. I had to do interviews with people using that, and after that, I just liked the idea of interviewing. There was something there to it. I liked telling a story and editing something together to tell a story. So I bought my camera, and I bought this camera to do interviews with people, like solo interviews with people, and gradually that just turned into me doing photography because I owned a camera. And given I was already passionate about gigs, and still am. I don't really have any appeal to anything that isn't gig photography. Like I landscape photography. Respect to any like landscape photographers, but that seems fucking boring. Like it's beautiful and it seems like nice hiking and seeing those things. But it's like I don't like the idea that anyone could go to that place and take that photo. I'm being a fucking dickhead. It's ironic that the first thing I ever shot photo for was a massive festival where I had stage access. And yet it's only now that I'm at the point that I'm again starting to get stage access, because I had previously had my camera for interviews and general videography, and my friend Josh, bad lad, asked if I would be like down to shoot his set at Alt London, which was a festival that took place in 2020, I think. And then after his set, I was kind of just at a festival with stage access and a camera, and both Shara Shots and Sorin deivjuvhs suggested that I pick up photography and I try photography because, you know, make the most of the situation I've found myself in. And it kind of just didn't stop after that, and I've just like kept going and kept shooting. But it was quite interesting to go from shooting a festival and having essentially like the first person I shot be fucking Playboi Carti, to then shooting smaller gigs and like going to random small concerts like of like 50 to 100 capacity venues and just shooting cool small artists, which again just continued to push my passion for like underground music.
So you literally went from Alt London with stage access to sort of having to basically smuggle, well, not, yeah. You weren't allowed to have your camera in, essentially. How exactly did you go about that?
Just the first time I went to a gig together. I would say Elliot's thing, because of COVID. We went to go to Ghostman.
Might have been Elliot's thing. Obviously, I gave you that Korea ticket.
Doesn't count.
Yeah. Yeah. Might have been Elliot's thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then we went to
go Ghost Main, obviously, but that shit got cancelled.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it must have been. I don't know. Should I like stalk through my highlights to try to figure it out?
I think it was that, to be honest, because of COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. It would have been. Yeah. It would have been Elliot's thing. Yeah.
So, how did you meet Alfie? In fact.
Funny story that I met Alfie at this Bexy pop-up, because I used to listen to Bexy time ago, and we were hanging out with mutual friends, and we just started talking about common interests. I told him I met Pyrocynical, the YouTuber, commentary YouTuber, and we were just bonding because we both like the same humor, same like comedy and that. We just got along, and then yeah, we made a friendship that day.
When was like the first sort of like instance of like you helping out with like his cameras and shit?
I think the first one might have actually been Drain Gang, to be honest.
I have snuck my camera into like countless gigs. I think the first one where I snuck it in the method I still use now, probably would have been Drain Gang's tour in, where was it? It was Kentish Town, yeah. It would have been Drain Gang gig in Kentish Town. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I had snuck in a camera.
That was one of your first instances of sneaking it in?
I believe so. I know I had snuck it in before just by like hiding it like in my pockets. Like literally just like knowing the security don't search well enough. And like separating the lens from the camera, getting my friend to sneak in the lens while I sneak in the body of the camera.
You know, we have our methods.
That gig would have been my first time sneaking my camera in. And funnily, I did use the method that I use now. But I very quickly got my camera confiscated by security because I was right at the barrier and I was cocky, because realistically, the security in the photographer's pit, like in front of the stage, they don't give a fuck. It's like, you just got to get the camera past the door, and then once you're in, they don't really care. But if the manager or the head security sees you, he's going to give a fuck. Or they're going to give a fuck. You don't want them to give a fuck. So you have to be sly, you have to not take it out when they're about. But unfortunately, I had taken my camera out as soon as the artists came on stage and started taking pictures, and the venue manager was standing there and just took it off me within 15 minutes. Luckily, I still got some decent shots, and I learned a valuable lesson about patience.
He got the most amazing shots. So amazing that the person that styled all of Drain Gang hit Alfie up, saying how impressive the shots were.
I don't think I've been to a single gig in the past year and a half where I haven't shot, because at this point I don't know what to do when I'm not shooting. I feel awkward, especially since I'm an old man now, ripe old age of 20. I can't be moshing. I've got arthritis. It's fucked up. So if I'm not shooting at a gig, I'm confused. I'm lost. I'm like a little puppy. I don't know what I'm doing.
How do you think of like how far he's come? Obviously.
He used to be. I used to see him hang out with him. We used to chill together. Just be my little ginger guy. He used to hang around, just be goofy in London. You know what I mean? And now he's tapped in. Like this shit used to be a hobby, and now he's made a whole career out of it. It's insane.
With the amount you've been to, you've surely had to travel some places. Where exactly has your gig photography taken you? Like in regards to maybe venues or just locations in general? Is it taking you abroad? Is it taking you different places in the country?
It didn't take long for like people to notice my work and fuck with my work, because I feel like because I had a background in video editing and digital production in general, the learning curve was relatively easy for me. Of course, you're still learning every day. Every time I shoot at a gig and I edit the photos, I discover new little things I like. But it didn't take long for me to get the basics under wraps and get people fucking with my work and appreciating my work. So quite early on into my career as a gig photographer, people were like having me travel down like to Brighton, Ipswich, in general outside of London, which was a really cool experience because I'm a fan of like localized traveling, if that makes sense. I want to like see what there is to this world, but also this country beyond what I've experienced in London, because I know not everything is like London. And I had a very blessed upbringing. But in more recent months, I've been going to Newcastle a lot and shooting at Noel Fest, which is a fundraising gig for Shoshin Noel.
It's easy to feel like confident when your well-being still intact. If your whole body turned to glass, do you think you could adapt? Nah.
He suffers from countless different conditions and illnesses and whatever medical term you want to use for bad thing, including like heart conditions, vascular compressions. Some dumb surgeon put some plastic stents in him that he shouldn't have done, and now they're causing issues and fucking crushing his veins. He can only eat rice and gluten-free bread with peanut butter. Anything else gives him, I can't remember the name of it, gives him a certain illness that just makes shitting literally agony. So he has had spent the past like couple years living off Uncle Ben's rice and gluten-free bread. Even like juice is fucked. He has to drink water. He can't drink beer, obviously, because that's got gluten in it. It's fucked. And essentially, Noel Fest is a fundraising gig that mostly consists of artists based in Newcastle, but occasionally has people travel up, like Pez Head, Bad Lad. And the following one is going to be in Brighton, which has deijuvhs, who puts on Lames Fest. And the whole goal of the mini festival, the gig, is to literally just raise money for Noel's surgery, which I believe is in the tens of... It's expensive and abroad. Because the NHS just don't give a fuck about him at his peak, and we need to help him. We need to give him his life back. Because right now he's bound to a fucking wheelchair and goes orange if he holds his breath for 2 seconds. So if you can, go to fucking Noel. The one in Brighton would have already passed by the time this comes out. It's in 2 days. If you're anywhere in the north of the UK, go to fucking Noel Fest. Or if you're like me, keep an eye out. Follow Noel Fest UK, I believe is their Instagram. Look at their gigs. Their gigs are sick. Very intimate, nice. Yeah, very intimate and nice gigs. Noel Fest was very helpful for me as well as I was like growing as a photographer, because funnily, even last night I was like looking through a lot of my older photos, and the ones from the first Noel Fest, my pictures from the first one are just like, especially by my standards, now they're just shit. They are not good. And having that gig, that semi-consistent gig that I could shoot at, with a variety of people and a variety of different circumstances, like props, lighting, etc. Skin tones, especially like difference in skin tones when you're learning to like shoot, is so fucking important. It really gave me a place to develop my skills, as did Untapped, hosted by Lilab. I like those were hosted every month for a while, and I shot at all of those, and it massively accelerated the learning curve for me because I was able to just shoot consistently. And in general, finding gigs like that as a small photographer is so helpful because like if you can find a small gig that reoccurs that you can shoot at, and it will like more time these reoccurring gigs will have different lineups or like slightly different lineups each time. If you can find a gig that's semi-reoccurring that you know you can shoot at every single time, you learn. You'll fucking learn so much faster than just shooting at the occasional gig. And like I would not be nearly as good as I am now if it weren't for Noel Fest, Untapped, even like some of the later Lames Fest, even though Lames Fest isn't really held that often anymore. I would not be nearly as versed if it weren't for those reoccurring gigs. So if you can find something like that, even in your local area, or fuck it, even if you have friends that are like interested in performing, if you can find people to regularly put on shows, you will learn to shoot so much better, so much faster. And 180ing, support fucking Noel Fest. Give Jack his life back.
Alfie has travelled miles to take pictures and videos at every Noel Fest since the very start, and has never asked for a penny. His heart is selflessly in this to document the underground scene as it grows. Alfie is also in the process of helping me document my journey with my health condition, which means the world to me. Work rate on is ridiculous. Everyone knows Alfie. He's everywhere at every gig.
Yeah, Ronin Cartel. Whenabouts did you start it? And you briefly mentioned someone else being involved in it?
So I didn't even found Ronin Cartel, weirdly. Ronin Cartel came to be when my friend Jacob, who moderated the Scarlord Reddit with me, literally just randomly created a logo and a name because he thought it sounded and looked cool and intended on it being a clothing brand, and then didn't go anywhere with it. And Jacob is like, I respect him creatively massively. He does esports broadcasting. If you've ever watched a Fortnite or Rainbow Six Siege like esports stream, there's a 50% chance that you've like seen his work. And essentially he created a name and a logo with nothing to it and then left it be for a while. And then slowly he started to do music videos because he's also very passionate about camera work and underground music. He was doing music videos for a couple small artists, mainly a guy called Kilmore. And it was around the same time that I was making my Lames Fest documentary and needed a brand to do it under because I didn't want it to just be AlfieDouglas-Wild. I wanted it to be something more encapsulating. So I said to him, do you want to do this together? And he was like, yeah, fuck yeah. We joined together. We commissioned my friend Carolang, Instagram Disney Prince, to revamp the logo, make it a little more cartoony, a little more cute. And from there, we just started producing music videos, interviews, documentaries, and then eventually photography under the name of Ronin Cartel. As of late, it's been pretty inactive because I've been busy with photography and university, and he's been busy with esports stuff. So the actual Ronin Cartel entity has been pretty dead, but we've both been doing photography and videography as Jacob Ronin and Alfie Ronin, which I think is very fucking sick. The idea behind the interviews is to shine a spotlight on small artists that wouldn't otherwise really get it and give mouths and voices to small artists who deserve the platform and deserve to be heard and exposed to the people and put on a stage. And I really can't wait to continue doing interviews and creating content as Ronin Cartel. But just at the moment with uni, it's just not gonna happen. My time is already, my brain is already splitting from time management. With photographers, and especially like small photographers, it's very, very easy to fall into like the social media trap and like creating everything for the sake of likes and acknowledgement. But I think you need to create first and foremost art. I think the second you start viewing your art as content, you water it down and you risk essentially like killing the passion and trivializing the passion and turning it into a like machine. As of recording this, I haven't posted on Instagram in 6 months because I've been working on a shit ton of photography, and I have a very bad habit of being a completionist. Like I want to get through all of my photos from a gig before I post any of the photos from that gig. And I've just been working so much that I haven't had the time to turn that art into content. And as much as I believe it's important to, you know, have a portfolio, show what you're worth, widen your potential reach, I think it's very important to acknowledge that social media is social media. It can be very crippling to create things for social media, like for it, not create things and put it on social media. I think it's just important to view what you do as art and not view it as like some trivial form of social media engagement, because especially with a lot of people, they care a lot about engagement and likes and how well their posts do, and they'll let that determine what they post, when they post, and how they post, and maybe lose sight of their vision in doing that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with creating content, but I think you need to know why you're creating content and why you're creating art. I really want to create books and physical shit, because at the end of the day, like the internet, like it's like for all we know, it's like look at, as of right now shooting this, Reddit is fucking like the mods have all privated everything, like, and no one can access the information that is on those subreddits. What if one day something happens on Instagram, no one can access your Instagram? There's no proof that your photography ever existed. I want to create physical fucking books so that I can take that out and show my grandkid, look, I took this fucking sick photo. Don't tell your parents I swore to you, but I took this fucking sick photo. And like just have a physical, I'm waffling, I like books. I want to create books.
I was wondering if like you'd be sort of like interested in maybe picking out some of your favorite photos from like what you've gotten out, like.
Yeah. So ironically, I should have had the first gig I ever snuck my camera into here, but I completely forgot like that was the first time there. But amongst these photos, you can see like some crowd photos. This is one of my favorite photos I've ever taken. Just because I love how the fucking crowd looks in it. There's so much different emotion and like energy going on, like this like really tired looking person, but it's like still very photogenic, this like very excited person over here, exhausted person over here. I love like all the different energy going on and just the obscurity of a fucking sword in the middle of a crowd. Like these are great examples of my love for crowd photography. You can see even in this one, like same goes, like all the different emotion in there. And it is very much exaggerated by the fact that it's in black and white, but that's a little bit of a cheat code, you know? On the merit of sneaking cameras in, this was like, I love this kind of shot that you can achieve from sneaking in a camera. Like you would not be able to get this shot with the security's head here and the hands from the crowd here. You wouldn't be able to get that if you were in the photo pit with a photo pass, because you could just not get your camera into the crowd like that. And this photo really is a product of the work that had to go into getting it, really, as redundant as that sounds. So this photo, although you could get that from a photo pit, I just love the fucking cinematic quality to it. It's like knowing that I took that from like holding onto the fucking barrier for dear life, camera in one hand. Yeah, it just impresses myself. This photo was from when I snuck my camera in to see Denzel Curry at Rough Trade East. I love how obnoxiously close I got to him. Just like again, I was right at the front. At this venue there actually was no barrier, so it's like I was really, you can even see where the flash has like overexposed on his arm, and I've like adjusted that in editing. It's just a fucking sick feeling. And it's funny because at this gig specifically, there was like 1 or 2 photographers who were supposed to be there, and they had these crazy setups, and I just was there with my like camera that I'd snuck in. And after the gig, there was a meet and greet with him, where he'd give you like a little signed card. And the second I walk up to him, like, you know, it's my turn in the line, he just looks at me, he says, "Who the fuck is this guy?" You know, it's just like in a friendly kind of funny way. Just acknowledging the fact that I should not have been there. And like this is another photo where you would not get this if you had not snuck your camera in. If you were a photographer that was supposed to be there and he's aware of you, and you're just there doing your job, he would not feel inclined, presumably he would not feel inclined to pose for the camera and give you that. But the fact that you've snuck your camera in, a lot of the time you'll get this from an artist. Like, they'll feel inclined to give you a cool fucking shot and acknowledge your existence, which is something I also got from Ramirez recently. This is a more recent shot. I don't think this has ever been shown anywhere before. I haven't posted it or anything. Where again, I was right at the front with my mate Elliot, who also does photography. Me and him were just at the front, both shooting, trying to get our shots in. And luckily he posed to my camera and I got this fucking sick shot, which I'm like incredibly happy with. And again, I don't believe you would get this shot had you been there officially and had you snuck in your camera. These two photos are genuinely two of my favorite photos, along with the crowd shot I shown earlier, which I have lost track of. This photo, there's just something to it. I honestly couldn't explain it. And it's interesting because it isn't a gig photo, but like this is in the bathroom at a venue. There's someone just broke the window, and I loved the way like this graffiti, the way the window had smashed and kind of framed that graffiti, made it look like a crown. And it was just the perfect look. I literally just I was chilling with them, and I said to Sinner and a couple other people that were there, like, oh, I want to try to get a photo of that, and he was like, fuck it, come, let's do it, you know. And honestly, I'm so glad it was him to do it, because it just looks amazing with like the way it's framed him. This in my opinion, some magazine shit, you know. And I love the way that crown sits above him. Photo of Echo. I was honestly so blessed to even get this photo. It should not have happened. This was at Mechatox Natural Mind 2. I don't even know how I managed to sneak in my camera. It's the security at this venue was so much tighter than any other venue I've had to sneak my camera into, and I've snuck it into an arena before. They proper had the airport trays, where you have to put out your stuff. They had metal detectors, and somehow when I put my camera batteries into into the tray, they didn't question that. But this photo was taken, as you can see, on this cherry picker forklift thing, because they had an inflatable installation that they hung from the ceiling. So they'd obviously used this to put it up, and I guess left the fucking forklift next to the stage. And throughout his performance, I was really struggling to get good photos because I was right in front of the fog machine. And the only time I really had any chances to get any decent photos were when he went towards his sound mixing thingy to change the next song, or I don't know what you're doing. I'm not a music person. It happened to be quite close to me, so I was able to get shots then, but for the most part throughout his performance I was really struggling to get good photos because of the fog machine. But luckily this cherry picker happened to be right in front of where I was stood, and towards the end of his set he jumped off of the stage onto there, somehow knew how to lift it up, went up, lighting guy put the spotlight on him, and I managed to get this once in a lifetime opportunity kind of photo. It's to be able to capture that moment is a fucking blessing, because it's so picturesque. It's genuinely just amazing. There's some other shots from the same moment here, but that one is overall my favorite. And then rewinding quite far, this was a picture of Carti I got at Alt London when I first did photography, when I first started. As previously mentioned, I had my camera at Alt London. I decided to try shoot after being encouraged by friends because I had stage access, and I think for my first time ever doing photography, these are quite fucking sick. It's funny though, the original of this photo is in 1920 by 1080 because I didn't have the settings for photo on my camera set up right. So this is actually a cropped version, not by much, but still. This is a sick photo that I got at last year's Hoodstock, which is an event hosted by deijuvhs and Lamesfest, or under Lamesfest. This guy's just fucked in the head, man. There's not much to say. He loves throwing his band members into the crowd. He loves crowd surfing, and I think his fucking face just says it all there. It's like a sick photo. This is a picture of Rushy at a 404 event, I believe. Again, this wasn't one where I snuck in my camera, but it was one where none of the fucking artists knew me. It was a reoccurring gig with a changing roster, and he doesn't know who I am, but he's looked into the camera and given me that shot, which I don't think you would get from an artist if they know who you are. Somewhere amongst here, there is a photo of him pointing to the camera. I really scattered these photos way too much. It's kind of crazy. Oh, there it is. You can see him pointing towards the camera there, which I think is just like a really sick moment that you can get from sneaking your camera into gigs. This is a picture of Gambo, wearing a 5 Hearts hoodie. Shout out 5 Hearts. They're fucking sick. This was at deijuvhs's headline show, presented by DNU, at Colours Hoxton. Fucking amazing photo, in my opinion. I love like the way the light comes in. And it really does like capture my style quite well, I like to think. It feels like a freeze frame, you know? It doesn't feel like you're looking at a picture. It doesn't feel over-processed. It does feel quite dramatic, but I don't think it's out of like a realm of possibility, you know? I feel like it is something that you can look at and almost feel like you're there, which is something I strive for in my photos. And like you can see in the like previously shown picture of Night Lavelle, I love that you can see the hands in the way it like gives you that feeling that you're there. Same for this picture of deijuvhs at Hoodstock. And this picture of Lil Darky from a year ago when Spider Gang were touring the UK. These kind of shots from the crowd where they're not too cinematic, I feel like it's an amazing way to just like immerse the viewer of the piece. I recently got this photo signed by Lil Darky, like tagged by him, as part of a collection I'm working on where I get my favorite photo of artists and get them to like tag and like graffiti all over it. And then the idea is to then scan that photo and have it be its own piece in its own right and publish a collection of those photos. And this picture of Lil Darky was the first photo to be used for that collection, which I think is sick considering he's also like an artist and like loves drawing and stuff. Here is an interesting photo of Dexter Black, which I hate. I don't like this photo. I feel like given how little I knew about photography at the time, it is quite good. This was from when I really had just started shooting at like smaller gigs and stuff. But I thought it would be interesting to bring along to compare to a later photo I got of him once I was more experienced and had been doing photography for a while and like met him and did this shoot for him, and he posted these pictures on Instagram, like the pictures that I got during this shoot. And I think it is a interesting way to show like how I progressed and got better at what I do. So this photo of Delilah Bond, which I took a year ago, again at Colours Hoxton. The Colours Hoxton have nice lights. And this photo is like good. It's like one of my better ones, but it's nothing crazy. But then later on they went to use it as a tour poster, which I think is fucking sick. Like the ability to see, like being able to see your photos used for like promotional material like this and posters like this, and like during the meet and greet after the gig that this was promoting, she was signing them and giving them to fans. So it's like so cool knowing that like probably around 100 people have a signed photo of mine, of an artist. Like that is just like so fucking sick. But yeah, it was really cool to see them. Like they didn't tell me they were doing this, and it was like really cool to like pull up to the venue, like because they had asked me to shoot again, and see them like giving people these like prints of my work. It was like really fucking sick. This photo here is quite sick. This is a photo I took of DeAndre at the Barbican. This was during his music video shoot for Storyline, which is one of the only fully produced and like fully intentional kind of music videos I've done, because he's someone I'm close to and like believe in artistically and like wanted to do it with him. And while we were shooting the music video, I saw this area and I saw this like potential for a shot, and I was like, hey, we need to get some pictures real quick. So I changed my camera settings, I get them ready for a photo, and I get this shot, which he then went on to use a black and white version of as the cover art for his EP, which is just like fucking sick. It's like when, especially for it to like not be a gig photo and just be a photo that I thought would be a cool photo to take, for him to like take this photo and like, you know, people see this on Spotify, you know, like this appears on people's phones when they listen to a couple of his songs. And then my post of this on Instagram went on to get liked by Boy London, which is quite cool because they were like a big brand amongst fucking goths and punks back in the day. So it was like cool to get like recognition from them now. This is a picture of Josiah from when he supported Scarlord at the O2 Kentish Forum. And I've been in touch with Josiah for like a couple years. It's like I'd like done some work for him online and stuff. And at one point he jokingly said that if he ever does a show in London, he'll have me backstage. And when it got announced that he would be supporting Scarlord's tour, I like jokingly said to him, "Hey, man, of your word." And he like patterned me a photo pass and stuff. There were issues with that, but I won't get into that. Basically, I had to sneak in my camera, and that was like with my proper big setup as well, so it was impressive that I was able to do that. And this is the photo I took of him after the gig in London, which I just think is fucking sick, because it was his first time performing in London. And I did get some shots of him performing as well, but I just love this photo. And this photo also has been used by Scream Rap, which is a pretty big Instagram account for like rage music, just like as a picture of him like in a post about his releases and stuff, which is really sick. This is a photo of B-Love when he, I believe it was his first tour in the UK, but I could be wrong. And although this is in London, the photo that this tour is from was my first time shooting on a tour. They took me to Manchester and they took me to the London one. I was supposed to shoot at the Birmingham one, but there were complications with the venue. I believe a lot of the people on the team didn't actually go to the Birmingham one. But yeah, this photo, as well as being a sick photo, is like this photo is like really cool for me because it like captures my first time shooting on a tour officially, which is like a total fucking privilege, and it's like it was really fun to do.
If you had one piece of advice, just general advice for everyone like in the world, what piece of advice would you give
To anyone?
to anyone, any piece of life advice perhaps?
Brush your teeth before bed. I neglect to brush my teeth before bed, and I can feel gum disease coming for me. I want to buy grills, like metal vampire grills. I don't think I'll be able. I'll lose my teeth. Like I'll buy those grills, and then my teeth will like get lost 2 years later. Brush your teeth before bed. I'm not gonna take my advice, but you should. I'll give a more serious one now. One piece of advice. I don't know. I'm fucking 20. I haven't lived. Life is long. Everyone says life is short. Life is long, man. Like the past like 3 years of my life have like I'm a different person. Like I'm a different person to who I was 2 years ago, to who I was 3 years ago, to who I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And obviously that's easy to say when you're young, you know, because you're gonna change a lot from when you're 15 to when you're 20. But bro, I'm 20 and I have changed so much. Like life is fucking long. I'm still a kid. Like you nothing is concrete. You can always change. You can always find new skills. I started learning Turkish a year ago. I gave up. I gave up after like 200 days of doing it. But I can say that I eat bread in Turkish, you know? Yeah, like it's never too late to pick up a hobby, pick up a talent, to like just fucking do something. Even change up like yourself. You can fucking shave your head right now if you wanted to. Like it's like life is fucking long. Like they say life is short, but life is fucking. And I'll probably take that back when I'm like 70. It's like fuck, life was short. It went by like that. But right now I'm 20 and life is long.
So
Corny ass.
That was AlfieDouglas-Wild. Don't forget to brush your teeth as well.
Bro, I don't even forget.